AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
We all have a story. Your story is not my story, and my story is not yours. However, we can find joy, hope, and emotional healing even through our most painful moments in life. Let's walk and take this journey of healing together, one step at a time, because your story does not define you.
Hey, God's beautiful people. It's Dr. Niesha here, and welcome back to Your Story Does Not Define You, the podcast. I am so excited that you have made the decision to join me again today on this episode. If this is your first time tuning in, I want to say welcome to Your Story Does Not Define You, the podcast. Please feel free to share this podcast, like it, subscribe to this channel, and share it with a friend. Again, we are always on here sharing stories, being transparent, because we all have a story, and there's so much that we can learn about our individual stories, and also listening to other people's stories, and just seeing how we all have been overcomers and continue to overcome from the stories that we experience. What a blessing. As you guys know already, what's coming up next is what is your vibe for today? Because remember, we control our vibes. We all have the power, and we all have the space that we can kind of shift our mood for the day. If we wake up on the wrong side of the bed, as some people would say, hey, we can just sit there for a minute, do some body scanning, recheck ourselves, and we can change the mood that we are in. So my vibe today is I am just definitely in a space of gratitude. As always, again, went to church today, had a beautiful service, kind of was busy after church, but you know what? I am so grateful just to be here today. Grateful and excited to be able to record another episode of this podcast. And today I am super excited because I have an amazing guest here with me on today. As you know, on the last episode, I talked about the conference that I had, It Hurts to Heal. And today I have one of the speakers that were on program for the conference. And I just want to continue the conversation about healing, because there is so much power in our stories of healing and just how we overcome so many different things. And so today, to help me to have this conversation about healing through relationships, I have Miss Desiree Haddad here, who graciously accepted my invitation to come onto the podcast. And when I say y'all, you are in for a treat, because she was so amazing at the conference that I just wanted to continue this conversation. So let me tell you a little bit about Miss Desiree, and then I am going to allow her the opportunity to tell you all a little bit about herself. So currently she's an associate clinical therapist. She specializes right now in childhood and generational trauma, and she is an advocate. And not just that, she is also a lived experience expert with a story that she is going to share with you all a little bit today. So Desiree, I just want to say welcome.
Thank you so much for having me today. It's such a beautiful day. Can't believe I'm here.
Okay, I'm super excited to have you here. Super excited to have you here, and just can't wait for the audience to hear your story and for you to share. So Desiree, I just want to start off with you just telling us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, I am an associate marriage and family therapist. I graduated back in 2023 from Chapman University.
Okay.
Go Panthers.
Yes.
At my time there, I was a student representative, right? I was meeting with staff, faculty, students of all kinds, all different backgrounds.
Okay.
And it really just trajected me to a place of wanting to continue to advocate in places and spaces like this.
Okay.
I am the youngest of 6, so I come from a big old family.
Okay.
I just got word that we are on number 49 of great grandkids from my grandmother.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah. So a big family, big blended family. I'm recently married, so still in that newlywed bliss a little bit. I love to read, things about me.
Yes.
And I'm a wounded healer. I come from a place of being A people pleaser who's in
Okay.
recovery, right?
Okay.
Continuously.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Good. I'm so glad to hear that, and congratulations again to you about your marriage.
Thank you.
And I am so excited that you said that you are continuously healing, right? And this is something that I kind of shared on the podcast. Our last episode was just talking about how the healing journey is a continuous process.
Absolutely.
And it's something that, we have to embrace, and it just takes time, right? It's not a one and done thing, but something that we continue to stay on this path. So since we're talking about healing, Desiree, can you tell me, what does healing mean to you?
Healing means acceptance.
Okay.
Right? It means love. It means embracing all that has been my story, all the stories that have come before me,
Okay.
and deciding every day to not allow them to define me.
Okay.
Right.
Absolutely.
I think healing truly means to forgive oneself
Okay.
for all the things that we've maybe done to others, have been done to us. I think about healing as a continuous process, as you mentioned,
Right.
and how it evolves and shapes into different forms
Right.
as we evolve and shape into different forms.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. And I love that you mentioned that forgiveness piece, because again, that piece of the healing process is always kind of tricky, right? Because people automatically assume that when we talk about forgiveness, we're just saying that, hey, you have to forgive the person that maybe, is the person that was contributed to your trauma, whatever that may be. But a lot of times it is that inner healing, right?
Yes,
That inner forgiveness that we have to start with forgiving ourselves, right? Because we take a lot of accountability for things that, that don't belong to us, right? And so we have to learn how to forgive ourselves. So I love that you said that. Now, Desiree, one of the things that I am so excited just to hear your perspective on is that when we think of healing and the process of healing, and we think of all the different things that contribute to that process, right? Because as we both have been just sharing, is that it's a continuous thing. It's not something that just happens one time and then it's over. But one of the things that I am really want to talk about today is just about how support and connection and us fostering this through relationships, and how this is so important when it comes to the healing process. So Desiree, I want you to kind of talk a little bit about why is this so important. And I know you shared a little bit of your story at the conference, which was awesome. And I thank you for allowing yourself to be vulnerable in that moment. And so can you just talk about the importance of support and connection through relationships?
Yes, absolutely. So as I mentioned and introduced myself, I talked about my family, right? I grew up with the mentality that it takes a village.
Okay.
It takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to heal the mom. It takes a village to support one another, uplift one another. And growing up for me, kind of seeing that in real time, whether that was, as I mentioned at the conference, my mom and her girlfriends being best friends for 40-something years, right? I always almost idolized that type of connection and support.
Okay.
Because I could see my mom having these rough days.
Right.
And who did she call but her girlfriends, right?
Yes.
Who did she pray with but her girlfriends?
Okay.
Right? And so when I started to grow up and go through my own things, I looked around and was like, where's my support, right? Where's the family? Where's my village?
Right.
And a lot of us assume that that's just going to be thrusted upon you. It's just going to be given to you.
Right, absolutely.
And I think that's the part I see a lot of people, especially with my clients now, struggling to develop these connections and relationships.
Yes.
Right? Is there may have been some discord between them and their family, and they're like, well, now I have nobody. Right? It's just me and my kids, or it's just me by myself if they don't have a romantic partner.
Right.
And so I always challenge them and I say, why do you not think you can go out there and build support?
Right.
Why do you think you can't go out there and find connections with other people? Right. And I think back to myself and, you know, when we're like 12, 13, we're all going through a lot.
Right,
And that's that middle school phase, right?
Trying to find your identity.
Exactly, right? So we're trying on different parts, different friends.
Right.
And at that point in my life, my family and I had moved from California, right? We lived in Palmdale.
Okay.
And moved out south to South Carolina.
Okay.
And so I went from having all these friends I grew up with to no friends.
Wow. Culture
Nobody.
shock.
Culture shock.
Yes.
I'm here, you know, I present white, right? But I am biracial. I'm half black, half white.
Okay.
And down in the South, it was very much, if you don't look it, you're not it.
Okay.
Right? And so building friendships and connections, I didn't understand that because in Southern California, you know, love is love. Everyone's here for each other.
Right. Absolutely.
And it was hard for me to find these connections and places with people, right? I wanted people who not only maybe looked like me or felt like me or looked like my family, but also I could connect with.
Right, absolutely.
And God was working because he sent me my best friend, who I've now been best friends with since I was 10 years old.
Okay.
Who filled that void,
Okay.
right? She stepped in where isolation wanted to win.
Oh, I love that.
Right? She stepped in and told me, I'm not going to let you drown.
Right.
I got a boat. I got a lifesaver. Hop in. Right?
I love it.
And in her and in our friendship for over the past 16, 17 years, I have found this secure attachment, this secure, safe place that I had witnessed with my mom and her girlfriends. Right? So not only like being the youngest of 6, I mean, the siblings are 16 years older than me, right? So it was hard to build those connections with my siblings.
Right.
So that meant I had to go out and find sisters and friends that were my age. Right? And so in doing that, I had to be vulnerable.
Right.
I had to open up about what was going on behind closed doors.
Which is hard for a lot of people to do.
Especially in families that say, we don't talk about it, we don't tell anybody about it.
Absolutely.
And it was like, the fact that she also was from a community and environment that was the same conversation.
Wow.
You know, and it was like, well, you see my pain, I see your pain.
Right.
And we could see each other.
Wow.
And uplift each other through no matter what.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow.
Yeah.
So Desiree, let me ask you this, because you brought up something that's really good, and you kind of talked about just how you were able to connect with your friend, and you talked about being vulnerable and being able to open up to her, but being vulnerable is not something that's always easy for people, right? And you kind of have to know, like, when is it okay? When is it safe to open up to people, right? Because again, we have to have these safe spaces to be able to be vulnerable and talk to people and gain that support. So when you think about people out there that are struggling to foster these relationships, can you help us to understand, or can you give us some ideas of how can we foster a relationship that's healthy, and when do we know that this person can be a healthy relationship, or this is a person that is a safe space for us?
Yeah, I think that's really important is the discernment of whether or not this person should be privy to my story and all the parts of my story, right? And I think as a young teenage girl, we often don't know who to tell, what to tell, right? And we maybe sometimes, I was definitely an oversharer. And I was one that just decided to blurt it all out with the hopes that if you love me and you're supposed to be here, you're gonna stay around, right?
Wow, that was risky.
1,000% risky, and don't always recommend it, right? It was something that I, in therapy, had to process and figure out why I was doing that. Right? Was it a way to sabotage those relationships and say, like I said, if I throw it all out there, are you going to throw it back in my face? Are you going to drop it? Right? And so for me, when I was looking at these relationships, friendships, romantic ones, I started to realize just how much I was sabotaging myself by saying too much too soon. Right? I started to think, if I keep trying to go after this person and I share this, like, they're just going to love me, they're just going to be there for me. And that wasn't the case. Right? I'd had little boyfriends in high school who I would share parts of my sexual assault history with, who judged me. And, you know, does a 14, 15-year-old boy know what to say or what to do with that information?
No, absolutely.
No, not necessarily. But also being the person who's been hurt and wounded, wanting to share that, it was like, maybe they'll love me.
Right.
Maybe they'll be here with me.
Right.
Be that empathetic witness that I needed.
Right.
And they weren't.
Okay.
And it became, how do I continually honor my story and the parts of myself?
Right.
But find these healthy relationships in order to do so. Right. And I think it became in connecting with people who I could see just maybe had similarities with me. You know, it was like, okay, you do some things that are similar to me. Okay, you know. It was in spotting their pain that I said, you know what, I'm going to take this chance to share parts of my story with you.
Right.
And see how it lands. And I think about my soul tribe of women and men that are in my life now, who I've done that with. And they've always told me, like, I appreciated that honesty. I appreciated that vulnerability to reach that hand out and say, you know what, here's me. I also want to hear about you. So it's that reciprocity, right? It was understanding that, yes, it's still risky.
Right, absolutely.
But there was almost a kindred spirit about it, right? I had to know that in me sharing, it would encourage them to also feel safe and feel seen.
Right.
In them wanting to share.
Okay. So when you say that, do you feel like you had like that inner voice talking to you that made you feel like, okay, this is possibly a good connection?
Oh, absolutely. And I would pray about it, you know, and I would ask God, you know, remove the people from my life that do not need to be here and do not need to hear these parts of my stories, right? And I also tune into, I think, the attachment and the connection within the relationship. And when I say that, if I noticed I was always the one kind of going after this person, always making the plans, always wanting to do something, catering to their needs, catering to their anxiety or whatever they may have been dealing with.
Right.
This was not a safe person that when I told my story to, they were going to be there for me.
Right, absolutely.
Right, so not only did I have to pay attention and pray about who this relationship and connection was with, but I also had to tune into how I was showing up in the relationship and how they were showing up. Right, so it became, okay, when we handle conflict or I tell them something, do they avoid me? Do they not want to talk about it? Do they run away? Do I run away? Right?
Red flags.
Red flags, yep. Seeing the yellow ones, like, they've been kind of not responding for a few days. I don't know. I mentioned this and they didn't say anything back to me, right? And when I started to dig into that part of my connection with people, it allowed me to see, like, oh, I'm doing a lot more chasing. I'm doing a lot more people pleasing in order to keep this connection. Right? And so in that, it was me praying, discerning who I needed to have this conversation with, but also kind of having the awareness of what kind of attachment I had to this person. What did it mean for me to open up to this person and tell them my story and why?
Yes.
Right? And so as I'm like seeing this and feeling this and I'm healing and I'm in therapy and I'm processing, right? And of course, all therapists, we do it. Tell me about your parents.
Gotta know that history.
Exactly, right? And so I was looking at these friendships like, ooh, who am I replicating? Who is that in my life? You know, is this like my big sister who I love but can be critical? Is this like my mom where I have that anxious attachment with? Is this like my dad where I feel disorganized? I feel chaotic. I feel anxious. I feel avoidant, right? And so I looked at those friendships and romantic relationships and told myself, okay, if I'm seeing a lot of similarities between those people from my family, and I've told parts of my family, or my family knows this part of my history, how did they react? Right? Trauma is there to inform us. Right? Absolutely. It's supposed to guide us and say, hey, you've been through this. This is what happened. But it doesn't mean it has to define every decision I make forward.
Yes, that part.
Right? But it can inform how I now build these connections and relationships with people.
Right, absolutely.
So in that, I was able to say, okay, there are some unhealthy relationships in my family and dysfunction in my family and my relationship to them. I don't want to repeat that with my friends. I don't want to repeat that in my romantic relationship or with my husband now. Right. So in that, it allowed me to say, hey, how am I showing up? And how are they showing up in this relationship? And if I share these wounds with them, how are they going to hold them?
Right.
How are they going to hold me?
Right, absolutely.
But also, how can I hold them when they're ready to tell me their story?
Right. So that self-assessment, being self-aware of just where you're at and how you're feeling. And again, like you said, what do you bring to the relationship? Not always looking for what the other person brings, making sure that you can satisfy their needs and then also that they can satisfy yours.
Yeah.
I love that. I love talking about just self-assessment and us like taking a look in the mirror at ourselves, because it's so important to me. I feel like when we're on our healing journey, but just in life in general, right? Sometimes we experience different things in life, and you know, it's so easy for us to look at other people and point the finger or either do that comparison. But it's so, what is the word I want to say? It's so, I'll just say healing. It's so healing when we can look at ourselves in the mirror and we can say, hey, this is where I'm falling short, or this is the area that I need to work on. And then we begin to do that work, right?
Yes.
Because when we can recognize the things that we have to work on, it really helps us to show up in spaces with other people more effectively than we would if we don't do that self-assessment.
Absolutely.
And so you said a couple of things earlier that I kind of want to go back to. You talked about self-sabotage, right? And a lot of people self-sabotage, and you kind of talk about self-sabotaging and saying too much too soon as a way to kind of say, okay, is this going to work? Or if it's not going to work, then good, I can get this person out the way, right? And then you also talked about, one of the things I wanted to say is that even in that process of self-sabotage, there was something you were looking for, right, in these relationships. And so I kind of want you to talk about just in those moments, what do you feel like you were looking for from somebody, whatever relationship that was, if that was a friendship, if that was a romantic relationship, if that was somebody in your family, because a lot of people sometimes are kind of like you. They or like you were in the past, where you would open up and share too soon, and then people would encounter bad relationships. So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's talk about that self-sabotage, and then talk about what were you looking for at the time, and what do people look for when they're looking for that relationship and that person that they can be vulnerable and pour their life out, their heart out to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think about, you know, sitting with that question, and really what comes up for me is I was looking for love, right? I was looking for that unconditional love of no matter what, I'll still be here.
Okay.
No matter what you do, what you say, how you come off, I'm still going to be there. Right. And for me, I think the wounds of feeling like a burden come up as well, of feeling like I'm too much.
I've heard that so much.
I'm feeling like I was looking for people and places that would tell me, you're not too much. I can hold this. I can hold you and what you've been through. You know, growing up for me, being the youngest, I saw it all.
Okay.
Right. I witnessed domestic violence in my home between my parents.
Okay.
I witnessed and went through my own sexual assault at age 4 and again at age 12. Okay. And so in those places when you're so deeply wounded and you're looking for these connections, you know, I honestly, I was looking for a savior. Yes. I was looking for someone to take me up out of this horrible situation. Right. And, you know, I gave my heart and my life to God when I was about 6 years old, you know, trying to understand the world and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it really cemented everything at age 12 when I was assaulted again. Okay. Right. I had trusted someone in the church to love me, support me, pray for me. And instead of doing that, it was manipulation. It was coercion. Wow. Right. It was, oh, they won't love you like I will. Right. This person was 12, 13 years older than me. You know, I was a kid. I was young. And they saw that. They see these wounds and they see this victim. Right. I put that vulnerability. That vulnerability. And they swoop in. Wow. They say, ooh, she's hurting. Right. How can I come in and save her? How can I make her feel secure? And they knew that's what I needed. Right. And it wasn't until I started finding these more emotionally secure relationships with my friend Tempest that I realized, maybe I don't have to get this from this man.
Right.
Maybe this is wrong.
Right.
You know, even though this person is convincing me that this is right, and I shouldn't feel this way.
Right, absolutely.
Maybe I could still get this love and security from others. You know, and it be a healthy relationship. Right. And so I think to kind of going through that, entering teenagehood of like, we're already trying to find ourselves. We're trying to find love. We're trying to find what that looks like. Trying to understand what we're going to be in the world. And here I had done something which my family had taken offense to, because why didn't I reach out to them? Why didn't I call them if things were so bad? And I was like, I was a kid. I'm a 12-year-old. You put that much responsibility on a 12-year-old to call you.
That's hard to try to figure out.
Exactly. And this is, 2010, so it's already like, phones are not what they are today, right?
Absolutely.
I had a little Motorola Razr, so texting was going to be, 4 times to get you, or, So me
absolutely.
Texting and calling you was not as accessible as it is today. And so for me, it was like, okay, I have to find it in my physical space of connection, of love, of who's going to be there, who's going to hold me in these wounds. And so as my mother and I left that very hostile environment from my father, they all tried to say that, like, it was because I had done this horrible thing. I had gotten involved with this older guy. And I was like, can we go back and talk about how that's rape?
Right.
How this was manipulation? Like, I had been through so much.
Absolutely.
And instead of being held and loved and supported, like I was still looking for, people were blaming me again.
Wow. And you were invalidated.
And so with that came the self-sabotage. Right? Because not only were the people sabotaging me already, they were calling me all types of names. And to me, it was like, well, okay, this is what I am. So I'm going to wear it on my sleeve, right? Because I didn't want anyone to have that power over my story. I didn't want people to use that against me. And so in the oversharing, it became, well, it's better if I kind of say it than people find out and try to use it against me.
So do you feel like you were using it as a defense mechanism for you?
Oh, absolutely, right? I needed to say, hey, this is what I've been through, and you're not going to say anything about it because I've been through this, and what now, right? So it was very much being in survival mode for so long that I didn't even realize I was doing it. Until, I realized I'm starting new friendships. And why is this like the third thing I say to this person?
Wow.
Why am I so quick to bring this topic up? Like, and I could see people get uncomfortable because it's an uncomfortable topic. We don't talk about this just at coffee hour.
Right. Absolutely.
And so it was my way to defend not only myself, but my story.
Right. Absolutely, because everybody can't handle your story, right? I mean, at the time, you didn't realize that. You just felt like, okay, I need somebody just to connect with, and I need somebody to understand me, and somebody who, again, that you felt love from, right? And felt supported. And that is hard to find, and I just want to take a moment here and just tell you how brave you have been, over time, and how you've had the courage, to walk through what you've walked through, right? Because it's not easy. And, everybody doesn't really know unless they've actually walked in your shoes or similar shoes, right? So it takes courage and it takes bravery to even get to a space where you are able to help yourself get out of situations when you feel like the people that are supposed to be there to love you and protect you and care for you don't show up the way that they're supposed to, right? But then most of all, even get into a point where you can finally find that connection that you need to be able to be vulnerable, to feel validated, and to be able to use your story to share with other people like you are doing today, right? Because sometimes, people feel like they're on an island by themselves. And they feel like, okay, well, whatever you're experiencing in the moment, you do feel like, hey, this is only me, right? Especially if you don't know anybody that has been through the similar thing. So you feel like, okay, what do I do and how do I do this? And sometimes that shame and guilt comes in because, again, you feel like, I'm the only one going through the situation at the time, and I can't tell somebody else, or who do I connect to, right?
Yes.
And then especially when people have had experiences where they've leaned into people and they've connected with people, but then ultimately get hurt.
Yes.
So I kind of want to talk about that because, again, it's hard to try to foster a healthy relationship once you've been hurt in relationships, because again, if you put yourself out there and you try to trust people and then ultimately get hurt again, it's not easy to open up yourself in intimate relationships, in friendships, because again, you don't know what to expect, right? So people put up boundaries, they put up their guards, and they just feel like, okay, no, I'm going to isolate myself and I'm going to stay in my little bubble. So can you encourage somebody out there that has experienced hurt from relationships and who are asking themselves, well, how do I connect with somebody? How do I know, like, when this person is right, or even do I even take a chance of trying? So how can you encourage somebody that may be saying to themselves today, like, I've been hurt too many times, just like even in relationships, because after you've been a person have experienced any type of like sexual abuse or sexual assault, it is hard to be in an intimate relationship without being triggered at some point. So can you just speak to how to encourage somebody to still, give it a try?
Yes, absolutely. And I think about what you said, feeling like a lone person on an island, stranded on an island, right? And at some point during my journey, when we moved back, we went again back to Palmdale, then to Las Vegas. So again, lost all my friends.
Okay.
Back on a one-person island. Here we go again. Luckily still had a phone, so I could call my girl Tempest every once in a while. But I was very much alone.
Okay.
And so I isolate. I turn into almost like a turtle, right? I go into my shell. I have that hard exterior. Every once in a while, I overshare and I go back in. Right. And even though I knew I wanted love so deeply, my desire to love, I still was hurt. I didn't understand why people could cheat on me, why people could talk about me behind my back, why people could lie to me, why I could be abandoned and hurt over and over again. And it felt like, okay, I'm giving up. Like, me and love just won't know each other. Right? And I encourage those who maybe find themselves in that space today or are trying to dig themselves out of that hole, right? It is hard.
Yes, absolutely.
And I want to honor that because it is such a difficult place to be in. But it's not the only place you have to be. Right? And so for me, it became, okay, my mom always talked about evaluating the character of a person. Like, if you tell me who your friends are, I can tell you who you are.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And so I remember taking that to heart and looking at the guys I was dating and the friends I was attracting. And it was like, well, what are their qualities? What about them says I should open up to them? I should bring them in. I should trust them. And so I started to just look at overall, like, what's their personality type? Like, kind of going into overthinking mode to an extent, right? But it really was, again, that awareness of who are these people? What are they about? Right? What are their wounds that maybe they have kind of told me about? How do they use them for their benefit? How do they use them against me? And it became trying to understand what that meant in regards to me opening my heart up to them. Right? And so, perfect example was I had found myself in a very unhealthy relationship my sophomore year with, again, an older guy. He was about 18 and I was about 15. And in the state of Nevada, it was okay, right? But he was very controlling. And even though he had these qualities, like he was family oriented, hardworking, like all the things I thought I would want in this person. But there was this control piece I could not get out of. Right? And I was like, okay, here I go again. Why am I finding myself in an unhealthy relationship? What is going on? And everything in my body is like, run. get out, right? It's telling me this relationship should not last. I start having, my older sisters are starting to step in and saying, hey, like, this is not the guy for you. Don't get caught up. Please don't get pregnant. Like, trying to stay in my ear. And I think that was, you know, divine intervention, because God was really just surrounding people around me saying, hey,
that's amazing.
This is not it.
Right.
Please do not listen to your pain. For the sake of being in a relationship to be loved.
Right. That compromising piece.
And so it was like, okay, I look at him like, I know I gotta leave. I just don't have the strength yet.
Wow.
Right? And it became, okay, I was the type of person who, when I got into a relationship, my friends went goodbye.
Okay.
Right? It wasn't just them leaving, but it was me more so saying, I no longer have time for you.
Okay.
I no longer am making space for you. I'm making space for my boyfriend, for him, blah, 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 blah. Right? And it was like, why am I doing that? Why am I cutting off these friendships and connections, whether he was doing it, right? Or I was. And so I started to reconnect with them. And I'm like, hey guys, like, let's go do stuff. Let's hang out. Like, exploring again those friendships and saying, okay, I like these people. They're getting good grades. They're wanting to go to college. I mean, they're ambitious. They have their own family life stuff going on, but yet they still show up today. Right? And it told me, you know, God told me in my spirit, just like, hey, lean into your village again. Wow. Tap back into those friends that I've put around you consistently. Right. And get about this relationship. Right. And so I encourage people who find themselves in isolation and who are maybe quick to jump into a relationship to avoid that isolation.
Yes, that's good.
Is to really evaluate, why am I currently isolated? Is it because I've cut everybody off? Is it because everyone around me, so I'm thinking more so what they're doing to me, I need to cut them off? Is it that I have now found myself in so much pain and hurt that I don't want to reach out? Right. And so it's sitting again in that self-assessment, that self-awareness of like, what's going on and why am I isolating? Why do I think I have to go through this alone? Who told me that that was okay? What story has been passed down to me that I had to do that? And so when I started to challenge that, it was like, okay, I can get out of this. I can talk to my girlfriends and they can encourage me to leave, and I can feel that strength again. That communal strength of like, no, we got you. Like, absolutely. Fall back, baby, we got you. You know? And that allowed me to leave that relationship. And so again, when I started to tap into, you know, these friends, these people that were healthy, that were good for me, it was like, what did y'all do? What's the secret ingredient, right? What are you guys doing that I'm not doing and figuring out just yet? And it was really in understanding and forgiving myself in the ways that I had previously found myself in these relationships, why I had found myself in those relationships, what I was doing to contribute to them. And also forgiving the choices that I had made leading up to this point.
Yes, absolutely.
And saying, you know what, from this day forward, I'm going to do something different. I deserve different.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's hard for people to understand and recognize, right? Because again, we get caught up in cycles, right? We get caught up in cycles, and then we find ourselves, like you mentioned, kind of doing the same thing over and over, and then questioning yourself about the decisions that you made. Know that you need to make a shift, but not really understanding, like, how do I make that shift, right? For so many reasons. And I kind of hear you talk about when you felt the need to like lean back into those people that have consistently proved to you that, hey, I'm going to be here for you, but then you still kind of like hesitant of like, okay, do I really reach out? Do you feel like you felt some fear of rejection during that time of just like, what would their response be? Like, would they actually accept you? Or do you feel like, no, they're going to turn your back on you?
Oh yeah, I have deep rejection wounds that I've been working through, you know, and I mean that stems back to, like I mentioned, my dad, right? He was often the kind that if I did something shameful or, you know, to cause harm, he wanted nothing to do with me. Right? And so for me, it was very much like, will they reject me? Do they not want to be there for me anymore? And some of them didn't. You know, even if I did reach out, they still went MIA again, right? So it was, again, that conversation of, did they leave or did I push them out? Right. And I think, again, it was God's discernment of like, I needed to get rid of some of them.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think I got to my senior year and I had about 2 solid friends that were left from a group of 15 to 2.
Wow.
Right. And I mean, I would eat lunch in my English teacher's classroom and that was enough for me.
Right.
Because not only was I getting love and support from my peers, but also from a mentor.
Yeah.
Someone who was pouring into me and saying, here's a safe space.
Yes.
You can be here with me.
Right.
And I would talk to her about this relationship.
Right.
And she'd share her wisdom and insight. She's like, I'm not going to tell you not to date him because we all know it makes you want to be with them more.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, but she encouraged me to really look at, 5 years from now, where do you want to be with this person?
Right.
Based off how they're currently acting, currently treating you.
Right.
Do you still want to feel that way 5 years from now?
Right.
And I was like, absolutely not. And she said, so what does that mean?
Right.
I was like, I think that means I have to leave, right?
Yeah.
She's like, ding, ding, ding. And so I was like, okay, so how do I do that, right? And so it was in looking for that mentorship and that quality relationship that said, hey, you got to get out of here, but I'm going to give you the steps and the space to figure that out for yourself.
Absolutely.
Right? And so in those places where I was rejected, I thank God for those rejections. Okay. Because I don't know how much hurt they could have caused me if they had stayed around. Right. I didn't need friends that were going to throw that in my face. See, I told you to leave him.
That's right.
I told you not to get involved with him in the first place.
That's
Now you come crawling back. No.
Right.
The friends that stayed forgave me.
Right.
My friends that stayed said, I still love you. I'm still here.
Right.
I hate that you did that, but I'm here. Right. So they expressed their boundary to me and they expressed their hurt and pain. Right. And I apologized. I took accountability for it.
I love that.
And to this day, still one of them was in my wedding.
Okay, I love it.
Right. She's one of my Soul Tribe members. So it's even in that God continuously discerned some of these people aren't always going to be there for you. And that's okay that we get told no. Right, it is. And that's a hard one for us to accept.
It is absolutely.
Being told no and being told that, like, I won't be there. Right. And some people just don't have the capacity to be there for you.
Right. Yeah. And that's true. And I think that's something that is so good is that, like you said, some people don't have the capacity to be there for you. And I think that's where some people struggle with just letting that go. Like, like you mentioned earlier about you praying and asking God to like remove the people that don't need to be there. And I thought about a conversation that I was having with somebody, and they were talking to me about how they prayed and asked God to remove the people that shouldn't be there. And then all of a sudden, the people that they thought were their friends were no longer their friends anymore. And these were people that had been in their life for like a long period of time. And then at the time when it first started happening, they mentioned to me they couldn't understand what was going on, trying to figure out, well, how do we not become friends anymore and what happened? But then hindsight, seeing the blessing in goodbye. Yes. And sometimes, it does hurt. Like when we have people in our lives and we have to disconnect from them for whatever reason, that we are still in relationships. And sometimes we just have to let them go. And we may not see it right away, but there is a blessing in goodbye. Yes. And sometimes we don't need like when you get older, people always talk about how your friend circle sometimes shrinks and you go from having 5 or 6 friends to maybe 1 friend or 2 friends. But hey, if you have one good person, if that's all you have, that is like enough, right? Yes. It's enough. And, again, it's just hard sometimes to find those safe spaces, but they are so important. Yes. And there's so much power in connection and human connection. And that was one of the things that we talked about. I think you talked about it. I talked about it as well at the conference is that we were created as human beings to have connection. Yes. So if we take it all the way back to the Bible at the beginning, when God created woman for man, because he said it wasn't good for man to be alone. And so he created a woman to be his companionship. Yes. And so again, when we look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that's one of the things that we need, right? Yes. Belonging. We need to feel belonging. We have to have that person. So I think that it's so important that we are having this conversation. I'm loving this conversation too. So a couple of things, Desiree, that I just kind of want to ask you. So I hear you talk about your story, and I've heard it in a little bit more detail. And I think about you as a therapist, right? Yeah. And so one of the beauties of being a therapist is that we are not exempt from life, right? And most of us have our stories, and our stories is kind of like one of the things that push us to be in this field, because we want to help other people, and people are automatically just drawn to us, right? So when you think about your own personal story and the relationships that you develop with your clients, so the therapeutic relationships that you have, when you think about your own story, and when somebody comes into your office and shares a similar story to you, how do you get through that? What helps you when you maybe get a little triggered, or either it makes you a little bit emotional? Like, how do you stay grounded when you are working with your clients?
Yes, absolutely. That's a wonderful question. When I first started to see clients that last year at grad school, I dealt with that a lot. I dealt with getting triggered. I got to a point where I would start to dissociate in sessions. Because I wasn't aware of how open I was, right? And my therapist really helped me to understand, like, hey, you can connect to these people without, being super connected to their parts of the story.
Right.
And for me, it was like, well, I can see them and my mom, and they're just like my mom, and I want to heal her and fix them, and or they're just like me at that age, especially when I started working with like kids and teenagers. Oh my goodness. And it kept coming up to me, and I was like, okay, God, you're bringing these people to me who I do have a similar wound to.
Okay.
Right? And I said, thank you. I appreciate it, but it's a little too much right now, right? And so it became where I started to having, like, put almost like a barrier between myself and their story of, like, what they have been through is their story.
Okay.
And what I've been through is mine.
Right.
We may have similarities. We may really connect over these wounds.
Right.
But I don't have to overly identify
right.
with what they're talking about and bringing up.
Right.
And, I am very much like a transparent therapist with my clients. Like, I'll tell them, like, hey, like, I've been through something similar that you're talking about.
Okay.
I understand you from this deep place of knowing because of this, right?
Right.
And I won't go into super detail about my story.
Right, absolutely.
But I do say, like, because this has happened to you, I get it.
Right.
And I see my clients like, oh my God, you do? And I'm like, yes, right?
Yes.
And so in that space, though, I'm still a therapist.
Right.
I'm not their friend. I'm not I'm not that. I'm still this professional who's coming into this place, in this space where they need guidance, support, and care. And so in that, I take my deep breath and I say, okay, God, what about their story right now is important for me to support them?
Wow, I love that.
Right. What about what they just shared with me? Do I really need to highlight? Right. And stop focusing on how I'm connecting to it and what parts of me are being brought up. And I can talk about that in supervision, right? I can journal about that and talk about that in therapy and in my own space.
Right.
Without bringing that into the room just yet. Right. And so in that, I do get grounded with my clients. I say, hey, what's 5 things we can see in the room? What's 4 things we can hear, right?
Okay, got it.
I go through the 5 senses with them, and I take a deep breath.
Right.
Sometimes it's as simple as, I'm going to play this song because this really helped me heal when you talk about this. Okay. So I just want to give us a moment to listen to it.
Okay, I love that.
And so I'll do that not only so I can get myself together.
Right.
And allow my client to just be washed over with music and love, and see how not only do I connect to their story, but other people too. Right, absolutely. Right, and so in that space, I'm grounding myself again. I'm grounding my client, and then I'm saying, hey, what you said really hit me. Right, and this is why. Right. I'll mention, my mom going through depression and being suicidal. And I say, I get it when you're worried about your mom so much and you don't want that to happen. Right. And I express that to them. Right. And I think in sharing parts of my story and dropping that like fourth wall, with our clients, it helps them see that I'm human too. Right. Absolutely. And in that, I see the most healing with my clients. Yes, absolutely. I agree. When it's like, you're wounded too. I'm like, I'm a person. I have my own therapist, and I tell them that, right? But there's still things you're going to say that's going to bring things up for me, going to trigger me too. And I'm sorry. I'm tearing up. I'm going to grab a tissue and I'm going to cry with you, right?
Right.
But as I mentioned, going back to asking God what it is that I need to really focus in on.
Right.
And so if that's just saying, thank you.
Right.
Thank you for telling me.
Right.
Sometimes I'm the first person or the only person that has
absolutely.
ever heard parts of their story.
Yes, definitely.
And it's like, thank you for trusting me with that.
Right.
And I hope that I can help you build trust in other relationships where you can do that too, outside of this space someday.
Right.
So in that, it's holding them with softness and care, just as much as I had wanted that when I tell people my story.
Right.
And I think that is the important part.
Right.
It's not always focusing on the details, but on the process that is therapy.
Right. And I love that. I love that you shared that. And I feel like what you just said is so important, right? Because what you just shared is a relationship that you have with your clients, which is exactly what we're talking about, connecting to people and having those safe spaces. And you're creating that safe space for your clients. And not even that, you're just going even the extra mile by giving people what you wanted, right? When you needed it. And I love the fact that you said that you disclose sometimes to your clients, right? You don't go into a lot of detail, but you share enough to let them know, like, hey, I get it. I've been there. I do the same thing. Yeah. And I definitely could relate to what you said, that it is definitely a profound healing moment when your client feels that, hey, you really understand me and you really get me because you have your own experience, right? And so I think that's important too, because again, it allows people to see that we're not superhuman, that we don't have this magic cape on, that we can just wave this wand that people think we have and save everybody and heal everybody. You're healed, you're here, right? But we actually have our own experiences that we've been through that helps us to even better understand and relate to our clients. So I love that you said that. Now, a couple more things, and then I kind of just want to give you a space to just share anything else with the audience that you want to share. But as we talk about healing and just being on this healing journey, and we both already said how it's not a one and done thing. This is a continuous process. So if you can just speak to your own healing journey, what keeps you on this journey? Like, what are some things that you do now? You mentioned going to therapy, but what are some additional things that you do now that just supports you on your healing journey?
Yeah, absolutely. So practice-wise, I journal. Okay. Right. I do. There was a period of time where I was journaling every day, and then, life gets busy, and there's gotta have grace.
That's right.
So it turned into, hey, once a week, hey, once a month, right? Okay. So it's still a practice I keep, right? It's still something that I know is there for me.
Absolutely.
Even if I'm not doing it every single day, that's okay.
Right.
I love music, right? I used to sing and express my hurt and pain through music. And so I'll put on a good playlist. I'll create a playlist. Whether it's like I'm feeling down, I just need some power in me,
I love it. I have people do that all the time.
Yes. Or it's like I have a Sing Your Heart Out playlist. I put that on and I'm screaming and, crying in the car. And it's also in challenging these old stories of I'm a burden, don't reach out to them, it's okay, you can do it by yourself. I challenge that and I say, you know what? Why? I have all these people in my phone that I can call who love me. Right. So you know what? I'm going to text this person. I'm going to call this person randomly and I'm going to check in and say, hey, do you have space for me? Okay. Do you have a moment to chat? Right. Or it's as simple as, here's a funny video. I needed a laugh today, and so do you, right? Just needing that moment to connect with somebody. Right. I love getting together with my family. So I have 16 nieces and nephews. So whenever I'm really having a hard time and just really needing that love and connection, I'll call up my brother and sister-in-law and say, hey, what y'all doing? I'm coming over to come hold my babies. I love it. Getting into that space where surrounding myself with love. Right. Even if I'm not opening up and making everything, open to everyone saying, hey, this is what I'm going through. Right. I'm still tapping into these tools and support networks. Right. And I know that when I'm ready, they're ready to listen. Right. And so other ways that I continue to heal is, like I said, continuing to challenge those narratives that aren't true. Right? Those things we convince ourselves of in order to continue on that journey. Because when I go back to listening to those negative thoughts and I don't, when I interact with them, I'm like, they're right or they're true. I'm like, stop, I do my little CBT, I thought stop it.
That's
I break it down. And that's the part of when we're therapists, we get kind of too much in our own heads and try to heal ourselves.
Gotta pull it back in, bring it back in.
Exactly. And so I go to my therapist. And I'm like, hey, I'm diagnosing myself again. I need help. But truly it is just in finding new things that fit now, right? And so I have always loved cooking and baking since a young age. And so, like, when I'm really needing just time to heal and just be present with it, I go and cook something. I find a meal on Pinterest, or I look through the cookbook, or I call my grandma and say, how do I make this again? And I go and I be present with that. And there's so much healing through food and connection and just community, right? Why we have barbecue, Sunday dinner, why we do those things. And so I love just being able to say, hey, I'm going to go make this because I need this right now. And so I tap into my needs when previously I didn't listen to my needs.
Which is going back to that self-assessment, right? Knowing when you need and what you need, and then knowing how to take care of that need. Whether that's leaning into your support system or either doing the things that that, hey, this is something that brings me joy, and I know that if I do this can help me through this moment. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that. This has been such an amazing conversation, Desiree, and I just really want to thank you for taking the time to come be here with me today and have this conversation, and then just being vulnerable and sharing your story with all the people out there. One thing that I really, really love about this podcast and this platform is that it's a platform where we're telling stories, right? We're being real about what's going on, because that's what we need, right? We need to hear that somebody else has experienced the same thing that I've experienced. And then also understanding that whatever my story is, that it doesn't define who I am, right? Your story doesn't define who you are today, because you're an amazing therapist. And if you didn't share your story, people wouldn't even know what you've been through, right? So with that being said, your story could have taken you out, right? But you've overcome and you've been resilient, and now you're out here continuing to heal, but then also healing people along the way. And so that is so amazing. So I just really, really want to thank you and commend you for the work that you're doing, and the people that you're helping, and all the people that you're blessing. It's such amazing. I'm so excited to see what other things that you have in store and what God has for you. And so just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
And then I just want to give you the opportunity to, if you have any final words or additional things that you just want to tell everybody out there in podcast land, feel free.
Yes, I think, the fact that we focus on stories is so important. Our ancestors tapped into stories, whether it was sitting around a fire, whether it was being passed down, right? Why music is what it is, and the lyrics and rap and everything there is. It's in our language. It's in our culture. It's ingrained in us.
Yes, absolutely.
Whether you're turning to the Bible or the newest book on the TBR list, right? I think it's important to really understand what it means to write your story, and the power that it is to just get it out.
Absolutely.
Even if you have not yet found those safe places to voice it to someone else, I encourage people to write it out.
Absolutely.
Release it. Because the more we hold on to it and we keep it inside of us, the more pain it causes us. Both like on a biological level to the point of inflammation and all of these health concerns. To even mentally and dealing with mental health conditions. And so it's so important to write it out. And I tell clients, I don't have to read it. You don't have to share it. You can go home and burn it, put it in the shredder, throw it in the ocean.
Just get it
out. Whether that's through poetry. I've seen some amazing creative ways to adapt writing a story. Someone did a self-portrait, and the portrait was their story, their words.
Wow.
That created their image.
Wow, I love that.
Right? And so it's just finding ways to release the wounds of our story.
Yes.
And then tapping back into it and saying, you know what? There is power in this.
Yes, absolutely.
There's a purpose for this pain.
Right, absolutely.
And I'll say for me that after that last assault, I knew I wanted to become a therapist at age 12.
Okay.
Right? So I knew at that point, I didn't want this to define me.
Right.
And I wanted to find spaces and people who had been through this.
Right.
To give them a space to talk about it.
Right.
But also I knew deep down inside, it would give me the power to talk about mine.
Right.
And so I say that because so many people, I think, come into my office and they're like, why did I go through all this? What am I going to do now? Like, why did this happen to me?
Right.
And so they're trying to find the purpose in the pain.
Right.
And so I continue to support them and love them through it and tell them, you're going to find it.
Right.
You know, it might take 10 days, it might take 10 years, it might take 30. I don't know. I don't know that. I don't have the answers for that.
Right, absolutely.
But when you're on this healing journey, continuing to tap into your story and say, okay, I'm not going to let this define me.
Right, absolutely.
But I'm going to make lemonade out of these lemons, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that is really important for people who are either starting their journey, in the middle of the journey, in the trenches, right? On that roller coaster of, I'm feeling good, and then everything's bad again.
Right.
It's a process.
It is, absolutely.
Right, it's the roller coaster of life. And we don't get to see it.
No.
God's already written it, but I have to trust in His plan and His purpose for my life.
Right, absolutely. And, you know, I just want to end on just kind of saying, like, one of the things you just said is that there is a purpose in the pain, right? You know, we don't always see it, like you mentioned. It doesn't feel good. You know, it hurts a lot of times. We experience a lot of pain through the process, but there is purpose in it. And even though we don't see it, we just have to trust and know that, okay, something good is going to come out of this. Like you said, I don't know, it may not be 5 days from now, it may not be 5 years, it may be a long time, but just know that there is purpose in your pain. And so as we wrap this episode up today, I just want to continue to encourage everybody that continues to listen to this platform that you are not defined by your story. Whatever your story is, whether it's a story of pain, it's a story of hurt, it's a story of shame, guilt, whatever it might be, we all have a story, and nobody is exempt from this thing called life, right? And one of the good things and the benefits of having a story is that we can change our narratives. We can change that inner dialogue that we are having about ourselves. And it's so much power in releasing, as Desiree mentioned earlier. And this is what this platform is all about, right? You don't have to just start talking and telling everybody everything about your life, but you just start with yourself. And if it's just, like she mentioned, writing it out, getting it out, and just kind of releasing that tension from your body, that anxiety from your body, and whatever else you might be experiencing, is just get it out. So I just want to take this time to say thank you again for joining me on this platform. Your Story Does Not Define You, the podcast. I want to encourage you to keep sharing, keep sending me emails and telling me things about the podcast, asking questions, because again, I want to make this platform as beneficial as possible and make it a space where it is really being effective. And so I love when I get feedback from people that are listening to the podcast, and just, you know, asking questions and telling me about things that you want to listen to. So I just want to say with that, we are all on this healing journey together. We are not alone, and we are not doing this by ourselves.
Amen.
And we have people that we can connect to. And I just want to continue to tell you to connect to your people, connect to your support system, one step at a time. So again, Dr. Niesha here on Your Story Does Not Define You, the podcast. Thank you again, and we will see you the next time around. Have a good day, everybody.